Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Michelle, and I am so excited, like really excited to have Yasmeen Bankole, candidate for the 8th Congressional District here in Illinois, with me today for our Women's Equality Day series. The whole point of this is for us to engage in conversations with women leaders, people that I consider to be trailblazers that I would love for all of us to know on why equality matters so much, why participation matters so much today. So before we just dive in to hearing all about Yasmeen, which I can't wait for, I want to just say a little bit about Women's Equality Day and what it's all about because we celebrate it here in the U.S. next week on Tuesday the 26th, and it commemorates the certification of the 19th Amendment, which gave some women the right to vote. All women got the right to vote in 1965 with the Voting Rights Act, but it was a start for us in this country. And it's really critical to remember how we got here, like whose shoulders we stand upon, that these rights just weren't just handed to us, And one of the elements of Women's Equality Day that I think is important to think about is how much community mattered to them, how much they were always engaging with other folks. So early on in the movement, in the 18, like 1840s, 1850s, 1860s, some women were learning in kind of a limited way, but learning from Native American women on their governance structure because women were leading in those communities, right? Unlike what we saw happening in the federal government. They were working with abolitionists who knew a thing or two about oppression and rights and advocacy. They were working with men in office because only men were in office. There were no women voting on suffrage, right? And they were working with community allies, immigrants, labor rights activists. It was always about being in community. And I believe that's what we need to get back to. That is our way to making positive change in this country. It just is. And so, our rights were not handed to us. They were hard fought. And I believe one of our strongest advocates and fighters here in this state is Yasmeen Bankole. And so I want to just thank you for being here and taking the time out of your really, really busy schedule right now. And I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, Michelle, thank you so much for that really warm introduction and just talking about the importance of community. I just think year after year, I have just found that being rooted in the community that you know and that you love, you too can play a part in watching that community blossom. And so I'm really, really glad that you touched on that. So thank you. But again, yes, my name is Yasmeen Bankole, and I'm so proud to share that I'm running for Congress in Illinois' 8th Congressional District. I am Illinois born and raised. I'm a local elected official
Mhm.
in Hanover Park, Illinois, and I just spent the past 8 years working for Congress, both in the U.S. House of Representatives and in the Senate. But just a little bit more about my background. I was born in the city of Chicago, raised in the northwest suburbs. When we came from the city, we stopped in Hoffman Estates and then found our home in Hanover Park. And I attended schools in U46 school district and went to high school out here, went to Lake Park High School. Shout out to all the Lancers.
Mhm.
And and then I went away for college. I went to Syracuse University, got my bachelor's degree in environmental studies. Went to the University of Denver, got my master's degree in global affairs, and then I came back home and I decided that I wanted to continue to work and invest in the community, the theme of community, that I knew best. And so. Right after grad school, I started to work for Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, and that was during his first term and into his second term. And that was a very interesting time. Working for a first term member of Congress, I think they just try really hard to um, pass legislation, but also connect with their constituents and be out and about and serve all their needs through constituent services. And you have to do it all in 2 years. And so it was definitely a really great experience. I learned so much about how Congress functions. And then after a few years, I went over to work for United States Senator Dick Durbin. And I worked my way up there and ultimately left his office serving as his regional director, where I oversaw his affairs throughout northeastern Illinois and helped communicate his legislation out of DC. And I just really learned what it's like to um, see the art of compromise in real time. You know, Senator Durbin has been just such a steadfast leader in Illinois, and he's just taken such a common sense approach to so many of our challenges. And I just to be able to work for him and to see that in more of an intimate level is really just an honor.
Mm.
But just outside of that, I decided to run for local office several years ago. So I ran for the position of trustee in my hometown of Hanover Park. And with the help of friends and family, I won. And so in 2021, at the age of 27, I became the youngest trustee in our town's history, but I also became the only Nigerian American elected official in the state of Illinois. A badge that I wear with pride because I'm so proud to be the daughter of immigrants.
Mhm.
Um, and just in this position, I've been able to really advocate and try to address some everyday issues that our residents are seeing. So right out the gate, when I was elected, I took a finer look at how we were doing water bills
Yep.
and monthly water bills, and I found that we were shutting off a lot of people's water due to
Mm.
non-payment and not working with them.
Mhm.
And I just personally believe that water is a human right, and that
Mhm.
I just think that shutoffs just should just be
Mhm.
the last option. And so, right out the gate, I created a water bill discount program. I created a water emergency fund where we'll pay your water bill a couple times a year. Um,
Mhm.
Really no questions asked. We just want to make sure that you have continuous water in your home. And it's just something that our residents really enjoy because it makes sure that when they get home and they try to turn on the faucet, water's coming out.
Mhm.
Um, a couple other things that I've done. A couple years ago, I welcomed and passed a welcoming ordinance in Hanover Park that really says no matter who you are or what you look like, we'll respect you. And we really try hard to celebrate differences in Hanover Park. We're a very, very multicultural
Mhm.
town.
Mhm.
Um, and but I've also, tackled some more challenging things. I really, really am really passionate also just about public safety. I
Yep.
think that if you don't feel safe where you live
Mhm.
and reside, then you
Yep.
won't want to build there. You don't want to invest there.
Yep.
Really think public safety is just the foundation for so many things.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I think in this country, we've seen um, um, a rise in some dangerous situations
Mhm.
regarding gun violence.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, Illinois was rocked by the really terrible Highland Park mass shooting that happened on July 4th. And
Mhm.
I was really, really just moved but also just upset
Yeah.
with that mass shooting. And so, right after a few weeks after it happened, as a trustee, introduced an ordinance that would ban the sales of assault weapons in
Mhm.
Hanover Park, just
Mhm.
because I believed that these types of weapons shouldn't be on our streets. And it is an ordinance that ultimately did not pass.
Mhm.
But I think that it was something in which I was able, and others on our board were able to take a stand and say, hey, like we want to be safe in our communities. We know that these occurrences can be prevented. We know that this isn't normal, and we know that there is a legislative path to fixing that. So
Yes.
I'll just really close by saying that I've was wasn't able to take these stances or even be in these positions without my community
Hmm.
and the people that believe in me. I lean so heavily on the women in my life, the people that came before me,
Yeah,
friends, family, coworkers. It really just takes a village,
it does.
and I'm just so grateful that I can continue to stay rooted in my community and really just bloom where I have been planted. So
Mm.
yeah, I'll
Yes.
stop there.
Love that. Yes. And you mentioned the art of compromise, and I believe that is a skill that is needed so much
Yes.
today in all the spaces, but particularly in political leadership. So I'd love to just ask a couple questions specific to Women's Equality Day, or just not Women's Equality Day. It's not a quiz about history, but it's kind of just like what the legacy is of it, because I believe we all benefit. Every single person living in
Yes.
this country benefits from it, but maybe we don't quite know how, right? Or how we tap into it. So I'm just curious to hear from you. What about Women's Equality Day is still relevant, or which pieces of that legacy do you think are important for us to think about?
Yeah, I think that Women's Equality Day is still relevant because we have seen many advances
Hmm.
with the 19th Amendment, and I think that just the legacy of the 19th Amendment has allowed for so many things to improve in our society. But
Hmm.
I also think it's relevant because of what we still have not accomplished.
Mm.
I still believe that we see discrepancies in pay.
Hmm.
We still see discrepancies in positions of power, leadership positions,
Yeah.
open opportunities.
Hmm.
These discrepancies are still very much a reality in our society.
Hmm.
I believe it's the World Economic Forum
Mm.
that stated that there are only 14 nations in our world, 14 nations that have achieved full gender
Oh,
equity in
yeah.
their nations.
Hmm.
And when you think about how there's, around 200
Hmm.
nations
Hmm.
in our world, I think that we still just have a very, very, very long way to go. And
Mm.
so I think that this particular holiday will always have uh, 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 will always be relevant,
Yep.
not only for what it has allowed to pass in our society, but also for the things that we must continue to
Yeah.
strive to achieve
Yeah.
in our society as well.
I love that. It's like this beacon, right? When we talk about it, we have the opportunity to celebrate, but also to continue to aspire and plan and move and, push
Yes.
ourselves. And I really appreciate what you said too about the study from the World Economic Forum, because it's it's important to look around, and see what's
Yeah.
happening in the world around us too. So how can ordinary citizens, and I am thinking about people who identify as women in this situation, just because we're talking about Women's Equality Day, but we know positive leadership impacts everybody too. So how can ordinary citizens get involved in a meaningful way in 2025? Because people are kind of freaked out. They don't know what'll happen if they get involved, or they don't know how to get involved, or they're overwhelmed with options, like what can we do?
It's a really good question, and it's a really, really, there's it's always great to be involved, but this is a really, really great time to be involved, I would say, just because
Mm.
of all the things that we are witnessing that are really concerning.
Yeah.
One thing there's a couple things that just come to
Yeah.
mind, but number one is voting. Voting, 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 exercising your right to vote. And I know not everyone in this country can vote.
Hmm.
I watched many of my family members go through the immigration process and become green card holders and ultimately become citizens. But I know it takes years for some
Yeah.
people. But if you can vote, if you can exercise this very, very important responsibility, please do so. You
Hmm.
know, I think in Illinois, we're really lucky.
Yep.
Certain counties that you live in, you can vote anywhere in the county. You know, you go to a community center or wherever,
Yep.
the voting machines are taking place or set up. It takes 2 minutes to vote.
Right.
And just really just this the implications of voting are so powerful as well. So I just that is the number one thing that comes to my mind. Please, if you can vote, learn about who's on your ballot and then vote because I see that as
Hmm.
a big way to be a part of the
Hmm.
participate politically.
Yeah.
I would say another thing is just educating yourself on who represents you. You know, who's your mayor? Who's your state rep? Who represents you in DC? You know,
Mm.
learning about who they are and what their values are, how they've voted certain ways, and the
Hmm.
ability to either voice your support for them or your displeasure to them. You
Hmm.
know, they work for you, and they should be working hard to meet your interests.
That's right.
And so I think just educating yourself and contacting your elected officials, I think is a part of political participation as well. I think, getting involved locally, I think you'll always be able to find, local organizations
Hmm.
that um, have similar ideals and
Hmm.
missions and values that you do.
Hmm.
And if those ideals and values also align with a certain political party, then
Hmm.
then you'll be able to find groups that are active on a monthly basis and working hard to, elect folks and
Hmm.
working hard on, different initiatives.
Hmm.
I think another really, really important way to be politically active, and I think it's one that we've seen increase in recent months, is protesting. That
Hmm.
there's so many different ways that you can protest.
Hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of people have decided to protest their displeasure on certain topics
Sure.
physically in person.
Hmm.
I think that you can also protest across the various social media platforms that we now have access to.
Hmm.
Um, I think that you can also protest with your wallet,
Hmm.
and you can say, I don't think that, this company aligns with my beliefs
Yes.
and values, and I think I'm going to withhold, any future
Yep.
purchases with them. And so those are just some of the ways that I think that you can get involved. But I'm just going to stress, if you can vote,
Hmm.
please vote because it is just so important. It's so, so important. And it really it's a responsibility that's been bestowed on all of us
Hmm.
in this country.
Yep. And that includes the midterms. I'll just say that
Yes, that
because
does
some
include the
people wait.
midterms. Yes, all the and I'm really actually you glad that you just said that, Michelle, because that includes the midterms, but that also includes local elections.
Yep.
So in Illinois, local elections happen on odd years. And as
Hmm.
someone who has, now ran twice on odd years, it's
Yep.
sometimes really hard to get people to vote because they're not aware that an election is
Yes.
taking place. So thank you for that reminder, Michelle. Midterms,
Hmm.
local elections,
Yep.
presidential years, all the years.
All the years, anytime we can, right? And I do again
Yes.
think about like those who went before us, right, and fought for this right. And if we want to maintain it, we have to use it. We have
Yeah.
to use it, right? So my last question is, what advice or words of encouragement do you have for people, women leaders, but all of us right now? Like, how can you encourage us right now?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will just say is the power of positive self-talk is
Yeah.
so important.
Oh, I love that.
I think that so often our default, like when we see something that we want to do or something that we might care about, when deciding whether or not to act, our default will be, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I'm not qualified,
Mm.
or oh, I don't have the experience for that, or me, I and and I'll just say that maybe that's not how everyone approaches things, but that's how certainly I've spent
Hmm.
years approaching things. And so I really had to um, hunker down and think about how I was talking to myself
Mm,
and really trying hard to switch out some of those phrases and say to myself, you know what, Yasmin, you can do that. You are
yes,
qualified. Um,
yes.
it's if you want to do it, you can achieve it, and
Mm,
really just trying to change out some of those phrases because I think that it's in some ways a foundation for the other great things that you may want to achieve or will
mm,
ultimately achieve. Just building up confidence and just believing in yourself just
yes,
from the get-go.
yes, yes.
I'll just even say throughout my life I have I touched on it in the beginning, but I'll touch on it now. The people in my life, the women in my life, but
Mm,
also just the overall mentors that I've had in my life have really played a role in getting me to where I am today.
mm,
So if there's someone in your life that you trust, that you believe has your best interests at heart, that you believe
mhm,
um, can provide you with advice, maybe life advice, but also professional advice. You know,
mhm,
hang on to them
yeah,
and really try hard to make sure that they are incorporated into your life.
mhm,
Um, and then I will also just say, um, just self-advocacy
mm,
is important as well. You
mm,
know, I love living by the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
mhm,
If there is something that you want to do, please speak up.
mhm.
I think
Love
that
it.
you are your best advocate.
Hmm.
I think, and if there's something that you want to do and it doesn't work out, or if you ask someone something and the answer is no, that I mean, the literally the worst that they could say is no, right? Or the
Mhm.
worst that that can happen is that it doesn't work out.
Right.
So. Just advocate for yourself. You can do it. You think you can't,
Hmm.
but you can.
Yes.
I don't even know you yet, but I believe in you. So
Exactly.
just
Yes.
advocacy is just so important.
Yes.
So those are the things that are top of
Yeah.
mind.
So thank you for that because you've just really done what all the best leaders do, which is like show up as a human. We would hear Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor talk about she felt sometimes like she didn't belong, or we'd hear, First Lady Michelle Obama talk about feeling like she was an imposter. I mean, it is so absolutely human, and we are
Yeah,
leaders. And when we can begin to see ourselves as leaders in whatever ways in our community, in our families, in our own lives, then things just change in such a really positive
yes, they
way.
do.
So
Yes, they
thank you
do.
for showing up today, sharing your humanness and your skill and just sharing your why. I really appreciate this time that you've taken with us.
Oh, thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for
Thank you.
this opportunity. Truly. Thank you,
Yes.
Michelle.
And everybody stay tuned because on Tuesday we're going to have a LinkedIn Live as the final conversation. But actually, I've had some folks say they want to keep talking. So this series is going to evolve. We'll see what happens. But for now, Yasmeen Bankole running for the 8th Congressional District in Illinois. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
All right.